Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. We are at the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum today for a Why Like Ike series for the month of September. So excited, my favorite topic to talk about during the month of September. Have a couple of guests. So Pam Sanfilippo, Dee Marshall, and we're talking about Constitution Day, Constitution Week, and Dwight David Eisenhower. What a great topic.
Sure is.
All right, Pam, you're the education specialist here.
Yes.
We think it's very cool for you to be able to pass this on to kids. That's the whole program that you work in. And so, you know, with Constitution Day being the 17th of September, if I recall correctly, I want you to tell us a little bit about how you pass this on generationally to the next generation of people to learn about Dwight David Eisenhower, Constitution Week, and the United States Constitution.
Well, we have several programs, but for the month of September, we offer for 4th and 5th grade students throughout the state, further if they want to come for a visit, a Constitution Day program, but we have so many requests that usually takes about 3 weeks to get them all in.
The 3-week day.
Right. And we talk about the branches of government, focusing specifically with the students on the executive branch, since that's what Eisenhower was head of for 2 terms. And we have different activities. This year, since it is an election year, we've changed up some things. We're doing what it takes to become president, looking at the Constitution and what the qualifications are to even be a candidate for president, and having the students compare, you know, how long it's going to be before they would be able to become president. Then they'll have an activity where if I were president, I would, and they can choose an issue to write about. We have one in the museum called Presidential Picks, and the kids use a iPad app called Pick Collage and look at Eisenhower and the different things he did as president and put together a collage of that. And then we also look at letters written by children to President Eisenhower that span anything from the autograph to serious issues about war.
That's so interesting. You know, I noticed on this pocket Constitution, it says the Constitution of the United States, and I quote, "Its only keepers, the people," George Washington. Both of you are here representing its only keepers, the people. Your job is to educate young people. Dee Marshall is here as a representative of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and your connection to both Eisenhower and the Constitution through that organization is pretty unique. Tell us what the DAR did to get Constitution Week started.
All right. The DAR courses, their main objective is preserving American history, promoting patriotism, and ensuring our future through education of children. And the DAR, in history, you know, they built this great big Memorial Hall in D.C. and called it, it's a performing arts center, named it Constitution Hall. And that wasn't quite enough, so in 1955, the National Society petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th, September 23rd annually for Constitution Week. And Eisenhower signed that into law August the 2nd, 1956.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yes,
pretty
it is.
cool. I know that Abilene has a very active chapter of the DAR because every parade or every public thing, you guys are always participating and again helping Abilene put its best foot forward. How many people in the local chapter?
We have 35 members in our local chapter, but because of age and distance, we have about 10 or 12 of us that are active.
Okay. You know, I don't know if I had ever heard of DAR before I came to Kansas. I may have read it and skipped by it, but it became obvious when I came here because, again, there are people who are active doing things. Daughters of the American Revolution. The revolution continues, does it not? And that is Washington's words. You know, if we want this Constitution to remain viable, then we the people have to be the keeper. So, Pam, you said you work with 4th and 5th graders on the Constitution. That's kind of mind-boggling. Very cool, but mind-boggling. Tell me how they receive it.
They enjoy in the past years, we've actually had the students write a letter themselves. After learning about letters written to Eisenhower, then they would turn around and write a letter to the current president. Since it's an election year and the current president will be out of office in January, we decided to change it up a little bit and have them look at their own ideas of what they would do as president. So we're changing that one up a little bit. But I think they really get a kick out of reading, in the session we call Holding History, reading some of these letters that children wrote to Eisenhower and comparing their own perspective on some of those issues.
Can you help us understand how a 4th or 5th grader would see the U.S. Constitution and its value?
Well, I can use some of the examples from some of the letters written by some of the children to Eisenhower.
Okay.
They were interested in helping him campaign for office or supporting him, even though they weren't able to vote yet themselves. But a 10-year-old girl and her 5-year-old brother wrote to Eisenhower in August of 1956. And first of all, they had to share that they each have turtles. Her brother's is called Ike and hers is called Mamie. And she said, both turtles watched the convention and we are rootin' for you. Much luck to the next president of the United States. So something as simple as that. Another young man who was blind and wrote in Braille, so one of Ike's aides had to translate that for him, wrote a little speech for Eisenhower to give, and he said, this is what you should say to win the election. Vote for me, I will help you out. I will lower the prices and also your tax bill. I also will help the Negroes so that they may go to school. So
We've had several programs where Eisenhower and civil rights has been the topic, and in one, the big sign behind us was directly related to that. But remind the viewers on why Like Ike, how Dwight David Eisenhower and civil rights, what's a pertinent point of that intersection?
Well, both the Brown versus Board of Education from Topeka, Kansas, that Supreme Court decision was handed down during Eisenhower's presidency in 1954. And then in 1957, when the schools throughout the country were supposed to begin integrating as a result of that Brown versus Board decision, in Little Rock, Arkansas, the governor and citizens around Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, chose to try and stop integration. And thanks to Eisenhower's leadership, he sent in the 101st Airborne to protect those 9 African American students so that they could go to school each day. It was a very tough decision. He gave an amazing speech to the nation after making that decision to explain to the citizens why he had made the decision he did, and he specifically spells out it's the responsibility of the executive branch of government to enforce the laws of the nation and those decisions by the Supreme Court.
Right.
And so it just fits perfectly with the Constitution.
Maybe we're biased because why Like Ike, cameras on us and we sit here and do these shows, but you know, to send the 101st Airborne in is another one of those decisions that very few people in American political history have ever demonstrated the capacity to do. It's a uniquely Eisenhower. When you think of a general with stars all the way down the shoulder, combat veteran over and over and over, dispatching the 101st Airborne, the nation's elite soldiers, not peacekeepers, soldiers, on behalf of civil rights inside the continental United States. There's no bigger deal than that. So the contrast of using, again, implements of war to establish peace between the peoples, it's only keepers the people. You know, could we have kept the Constitution safe had we allowed segregation to continue unabated?
not under the laws of the land.
Exactly.
And that's exactly, and Eisenhower spells out that as the commander-in-chief, he has the responsibility of protecting citizens throughout the country, and in times when states can't do it themselves to quell violence, it's his responsibility to do that.
You know, Dee, you said on the city council, you were
Yes, I did.
just done with your mayorship, or you're just the mayor, which is it?
I'm mayor.
Okay, so you're sitting here as mayor of Abilene,
Correct.
Dwight David Eisenhower's home. You know, we have about 185,000 people thereabouts, destinations, Abilene, Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum on an annual basis, but they don't drop in here on parachute. They drive all the way through town or up through town or across town to get here. You know, it's a unique opportunity as a city government to think that Dwight David Eisenhower and actions like this are why people come here. It blows my mind every time the camera's on and we
Yes.
get into this. It's just how blessed we are in Abilene, Kansas to have this legacy, these buildings, that document that people can come read Dwight David Eisenhower's speech to the nation about civil rights. You could Google it too, but it's not the same
That's
as
right.
being here. It's a great opportunity for Abilene as a community, isn't it, Dee?
It most certainly is. We value these buildings, this center, and they recently came to us needing new signs out on the highway. The old ones were very, very faded, and the council thought that was worthy, and we gave them the money to purchase their signs.
You know, a great segue for us. I'm glad you brought it up. Your elected office, you have streets, you have sidewalks, you have truck for snow removal, fixing sewer lines, so on and so forth.
Yes.
But you also speak for the people, us, the residents of Abilene, when it comes to what we choose to do with money to set aside
That's
for
correct.
marketing our community.
That's correct.
And I was so pleased to see the partnership between the library and the governing body of the city to help with that sign. And what made it the best for me is you had Lon Schrader's bucket truck sitting out there helping put that sign up.
Yes.
Because again, that's really the lifting up of Eisenhower out along the freeway.
That's right.
That's something we can all get behind.
Yes, I agree entirely.
Yeah, very cool. So I want to take you down the Daughters of the American Revolution a little bit. You got red, white, and blue on
Yes, I
top to
did.
bottom, including the shoes. You don't get to see the shoes,
I
but
thought
the
about the
shoes are
pins,
all...
but I don't have enough shoulders for those. I've got lots of ribbons.
The shoes are all red, white, and blue too, so she's patriotic top to bottom today. But tell us what the rules are. How do you become a DAR member, and
right.
why is it important to Dee Marshall?
It's extremely important to Dee Marshall. Dee Marshall's been a daughter since 1984. I did my own lineage research to get in, which took me about 5 years. But to become a daughter, you have to prove a direct bloodline back to someone that served the cause somehow. If they didn't necessarily have to fight, they could have provided supplies or put up soldiers or something. And you have to prove each generation with paper documents. So that takes a little while. It's easier these days with computers, much, much easier. But if someone's interested in becoming a daughter here in Abilene, all they need to do is contact me directly. My email's BillDayInc@eaglecom.net. They can get on our Facebook page and see other people to contact, and we will help them with that process.
It's a special pleasure, I guess, to think of the Daughters of the American Revolution and the partner, and you being the current mayor of Abilene. Isn't that how communities move and work together and actually win? You know, there's lots of ways to lose in a community, but the way to work together and win is kind of singular in its opportunity to succeed. Okay. Pam, as we look at kids, we sit here and you go from sophomores in high school. You had my son in your research facility last year, and you're talking about 4th and 5th graders. What ties all that together for the Eisenhower Library Museum, and why do you do all of that?
Start early, start young, and just continue to build that. Helping them become the responsible citizens that Eisenhower said was the true purpose of education. And so that applies to all ages, old and young.
are you going so far as to say that Eisenhower said it, so we can lay it off on one of the greatest men that ever lived, okay? So he said, you know, the education purpose thereof is to create better citizens. So where was Eisenhower promoting loyalty to lie? To the individual and what we want out of life, or us as citizens? I think maybe a little of both of there. But I think the unique experiment that is America is represented by the documents behind us. There's the Bill of Rights over there, the Constitution in the middle. So this Eisenhower probably experienced America in a way that very few people have, because of his leadership and the roles he led, or he was in his leadership, and during the time he lived, which is the World Wars. Experience forms a person. So here we are, and you're tasked with passing some of that on to next generation. Dee sits here as a DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, and it's more than a social club. I mean, they have a mission. They promote well-being in America. You know, I hold highly that you can pick up a document that makes us unique in the world. I think that's really cool. So what do you do with the Constitution when the hard questions come? So what's the hardest question somebody's asked you from a 4th or 5th grader or a sophomore in high school that you have to think about?
I think helping them to realize that they have a voice as well. I think for our students, you know, they're involved in their day-to-day school life, but they don't necessarily feel they can't vote yet, that perhaps they don't have a voice in government. And so one of the things that we try and do through this program and others is show them through correspondence from children to Eisenhower that yes, they do. And they're taken seriously and listened to. Eisenhower didn't respond himself to every single one of these letters, but many of them he did. One of the letters that I brought with me is a girl who is 13 years old in September of 1956, and she wrote to Eisenhower. Was in 9th grade in Oklahoma, and she wanted Ike to write a personal letter back to her. But one of the things that she said is, would you please tell me in your letter if you think it is important for a girl my age to choose which party or candidate to support? So even though she couldn't vote, and Eisenhower's response to her is crucial to helping students understand their role. He said, it is important for you to give thought to political parties, candidates, and the conduct of your government. Your wisdom and that of other millions of your schoolmates will guide us in but a few years. You must be as well prepared as you possibly can.
So well said.
Yes.
I'm blessed with a 16-year-old boy that loves history, and I think much of his introduction to history was here at this facility, because I was here, so he was here. And we're blessed with that. And that inquisitive mind, you know, that asks the questions that you don't know all the answers to. But my goodness, all three of us in our roles, I guess, have an opportunity to say that having the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum in Abilene, Kansas, enables us to have more hope for the future than if we didn't have it. Any disagreement with that?
No, the Daughters recognize the greatness of Eisenhower with the pylons that are placed out there. The Kansas Daughters put those up there in '56. And they pledged that for 30 years, every administration would have an Eisenhower pilgrimage, which they did. And the last one was in 1990. Well, they recognized his greatness.
Such a great opportunity to talk about Eisenhower, and with the U.S. Constitution Day, September 17, just in front of us, about a blink. So thank you, Pam, for the work you do with young people here. I know it's your job, but it's more than a job.
It is.
And it certainly is to those of us who have young people to send them up here. Dee, thanks to your DA Art Club. Tell
Thank
the
you.
Daughters of the American Revolution in Abilene, Kansas. Job well done, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for representing today. Red, white, and blue looks good on a Daughter of the American Revolution.
Yep.
I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. That's Pam Sanfilippo. She works here at the Library Museum as an education specialist. This is Dee Marshall, the mayor of Abilene and a Daughter of the American Revolution. We hope you have a great day.